go ahead and get started. So hello everyone, and for anyone who just joined us on our last webinar, hello again, and thank you for joining us. So I just have a few admin points to tick off before we do begin. So firstly, the session will be recorded and will be available afterwards on our website and other platforms. And if you have any questions during the session, please pop them in the chat and we'll have a Q&A session at the end to go through all of those. So firstly, it's lovely to see you all with us today. And for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I am Renee and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Bamboom Cloud. To anyone that is new here, our aim here at Bamboom Cloud is to help organisations take the very best of the Microsoft Cloud in order to help them to transform and grow. Today's session, as like every other session in our webinars, will be based on Dynamics 365 Business Central. Part of my role is to educate you on and help you to understand what you already have access to within Business Central, along with how we can add extra components to it to benefit your organisation through third-party apps, which we often refer to as ISV solutions. Today won't be a deep dive tech session, and we will aim to keep it in a language which enables you to understand what it can do for you and how you can gain benefit from its features. Today's session will be on Power BI. This is part of the Microsoft Power Platform for dashboard and management reporting, and will showcase some of the amazing features that this solution has to offer. I'm delighted to be joined by our very own Power BI specialist, Steve Strang, who will be demoing the Power BI product for us today. So over to you, Steve, if that's okay.
Right, thanks, Renee. That's brilliant. So, hi everyone. I'm Steve. I'm a tech specialist here at Bamboom Cloud, and I sort of specialise in the Power Platform. So, Power Automate, Power BI that we're covering today, and Power Apps. So, as Renee said, it's going to be a bit of an overview of what Power BI can do, and hopefully give you some ideas of how you might be able to use it yourselves. So, as mentioned, Power BI is part of the Power Platform from Microsoft. So it's made up of Power Automate, which lets you automate business processes and workflows. Power Apps that lets you build simple apps you can access on your tablets, phones and web browser. And then Power BI, which lets you create reports and dashboards. And you can pull data into all of these from various systems. So Microsoft systems like Dynamics 365, Office 365, Azure, and any legacy business apps and data you might have on premise. So what is Power BI? So Power BI itself, as mentioned, it's a reporting and dashboarding tool really, and it lets you pull in data from across all your different systems. So obviously Business Central itself, but other systems like Sales Pro, SQL databases, Excel, SharePoint, all over the place. And you can pull that data in and create nice summary reports and dashboards that are very visually rich and interactive. And you can access it through your web browser, so you can share it across your business with your other team members, and also on phones and tablets. And it lets you create phone optimized views, so simple cut down dashboards you can just see at a glance on your phone. So in terms of connecting it, as I say, there's all sorts of connectors in there, there's dozens. So some of the common ones, things like Sales Pro, Business Central, SQL, both on premise and in cloud, Excel, SharePoint, Dataverse, there's literally dozens. If you've got a system with an API, you can hook up to that using web services and those kinds of things. Very worst case, if you have a system that doesn't have some sort of API or database access, you can always dump the data out into Excel and pull it in from there. So there's typically two types of data sources. You've got your cloud data sources, which covers things like Business Central, your APIs, Azure SQL, that's sort of cloud-based, Microsoft Dataverse and others. And then you've got your on-premise data. So if you have got any legacy old systems that run on like a SQL database sat on a server somewhere, you can pull those in. Likewise with Excel files, you might have sat on a file server somewhere. And you can use a tool called Power BI Data Gateway, which you can install on your servers, and that will allow the Power BI service to see those sort of local files that are normally hidden away behind your firewalls and the like. So in terms of actually getting started with Power BI, you need to download a tool called Power BI Desktop, and there's 4 main steps in terms of building your first report. So the first thing is to pull in your data, so that's picking it from wherever it may be, whether that's Business Central, Excel, etc. Once you've pulled it in, you then have to create relationships between the tables that you're pulling in. So on this example here, you've got your chart of accounts, and it's linking the chart of account number to the GL account number in the GL entries in Business Central. So these two steps together are essentially building your data model that your reports are going to be based on, and it just allows it to know how those tables relate to one another. So you can do things like summing up figures from balances and that kind of thing. You then actually start creating reports. This is a fun bit. It's all very drag and drop. You just take your fields and just drag them on and choose how you want to display them. So that might just be as numbers, might be as pie charts, bar charts, and all the, excuse me, all these visuals on here are very sort of interactive. So you can click on a bar on a bar chart and it will filter the other visuals on the page to show you the corresponding data. So if you click on a customer, for example, all the other bits on there will filter down. And then lastly, once you've built your report, you can publish it up to the Power BI website and then share it with other people across your team. So we're now going to just go on to a quick sort of video demo of actually just showing building a report from Business Central from scratch. So I'll just hit play on this and just make sure I've got the sound on.
Okay, so when you first go into Power BI Desktop to build a report, you'll be given a blank canvas like this. So the first thing you need to do is click the Get Data button to bring in some data. So when you click it, it will pop up a little form where you can select your data source from a huge list. So as you can see here, there's quite a lot to choose from. If you know what you're looking for though, you can use this little search box. So we want Business Central, so if we put BUS, you'll see it filters that list down. Now we want the cloud version, not the on-prem, so it's this top one. And we simply click Connect. Now normally at this point it'll ask you to log in with a Business Central account. We've already done that, so it's remembered it. So it's just the same login you use for Business Central. Once you've done that, you'll be given a list of environments, and from there you will be given a list of companies to choose from. So we're going to use a Cronus company, and then finally you've got a few different API sources with Business Central. For Power BI we want to use this Web Services Legacy one. So once we expand that, here you can see a list of web services from Business Central. So these are essentially pages from within the system that have been exposed as web services. So you can see here we've got things like customers, items, etc. Now the great thing with Business Central, if I just flick over to it, is it has a web services table, and you can add in areas of the system that you want to include in it. So if you click on the little search box and type in web, the second entry in the list here, web services. So this table here, this is what you see in Power BI. So under service name, that is what they'll appear as. And you can see here where it says page, you've got tax areas, etc. And that's what you'll see in Power BI. So the great thing is you can add any area of the system into this that isn't here already to make it available to Power BI for your reporting. So let's say, for example, we wanted the customer table. So if we click on customers, you get your customer list here. Now, if we want to add that to the web services table, we need to know what this page is. So if you press Control, Alt and F1, it will pop out this page inspection panel, and in here it will tell you the page number for the page that you're currently on in the system. So this will work everywhere. So here it's number 22. So if we go back to that web services table, we can now add a new entry in here. So we click New. Let's just try that again. So click New, and it should give you a blank row like this. So select Page, and we know it's page number 22 we want for the customers, and then we give it a name here. So I tend to prefix them with BI, so we know it's for Power BI, and then put in the name of what it is. So let's say customer list. If we then tab across, we just need to tick this publish box here. We can then click off it, which will save it. So now if we go back into Power BI and just refresh this list, if we go to Production UK, and then back into Cronus and Web Services. So if we scroll down, you can now see we've got BI customer list. That's the one we just added. So we'll actually pull that into this report we're going to build, and we'll also pull in some customer ledger entries, which we can see here. So it's just a case of ticking the ones you want to pull through. So if we now click load, what this will do is it'll pull in those two tables into our report here. So it shouldn't take too long because we're only using demo data. So depending on how much data you've got in the system, this can take anything from a few seconds to a few minutes. So give that a moment. There we go. So now they've pulled in, they'll appear here in the field list, and you can see if I expand them, there's our customer table fields and there's our ledger entry fields. So the first thing we want to do is come in here and set up a relationship. So you click on this model view here, which will give you this screen, and once you're in here, you can simply drag one field onto another to link these tables together. So in this case, we want to link the customer number field. So if we scroll down, you can see number here to customer number on the ledger entries, and it's just drag and drop. So this will create a one-to-many relationship, so each customer can have many ledger entries. So if we come back here by clicking this little report tab, we can now start to build a report. So let's say for now we just want a simple list of customers, and so we can just drag that customer name field and just drop it on the page, and that will give us a list by default, so essentially a grid. And then if we click into the ledger entries table, we can use this amount LCY field, we can just drag that into that same grid. Now because we've set up that relationship already, that is now summing up all the amounts and grouping them by customer, so we're getting the total by customer essentially. Now in addition to that, maybe we just want a grand total, so again if we take that amount LCY field, drag it onto the page, at default it's given as a bar graph, but we can change that to be this card visual here. So now you can see straight away you've got 44.01k. Now each visual that you add on the page has a little formatting options here, so we click on this paint roller with it selected and click into data label. We can change how that's displayed, so instead of it rounding it to thousands, we can select none and see the actual full value if we want to. Likewise, if we click on a field, it'll let us change how it's formatted, so by default this is shown as a decimal. There are actually some currency options here, so let's change that into pound sterling, and it will automatically everywhere that's displayed now show it in pounds. Now over here we might think we want this as something like a bar graph instead, so with this grid selected I can actually just click on the bar graph visual here and it will swap it out for us straight away. So now we've got a bar chart showing you our amounts by customer. Now as I said before, this is all completely interactive, so if I were to click on School of Fine Art, that will then filter down the amounts here. If I click on Recloud again, so it will show me the balance for that particular customer, and if I hover over it you can see the amount matches there on the tooltip. Now you might actually want to allow people to filter the data on the page as well, so again if you want to filter by customer, we just drag the name onto the page and that will give us a list. Now because we've got that one selected, it's only showing that at the moment, so if I just unselect that, now we've got a list of customers here in a grid, but if we click on this tool here called the slicer, that will make it into a selectable list. And to make it a little bit neater, what we can do is click this little down arrow and select drop down instead, and that will make it into a nice little drop down list which we can position up here. Now if we click into this, we can now just click on any of these visuals, sorry, any of these customers I should say, to filter the data on the page, and you can multi-select if you want to show a couple of them as well. So as you can see, it's quite easy to build sort of simple reports and get started. Now another quite cool tool is this one here called the decomposition tree. If we drag that onto the page and just make it full size, what this allows you to do is take a particular value and customize how people can drill into it to break it down. So if we again use this amount LCY field here, it will give us that total the same as on the previous page, but we can now specify fields that people can use to drill into this data. So we could say customer name again is an obvious one, so we drag that into this explain by column. Let's say also salesperson, and let's say country and region. So now we've added those in, essentially anyone viewing this report can come in here, take that figure and say, okay, I want to break that down by salesperson, and it will straight away branch out. And in this case, we've only got one. So we can click it again, and let's break it down by country and region. You can see now it's split it between US, Great Britain and Germany. Now if we click on GB and say name, that will then break it down further by customer, and then I can click on the different countries and it will flick through to show me which customers are in which country. Now if you imagine using this with your own data, you might have your salespeople like this, you might have customers, but you might also want to use things like your dimensions that you've got set up, so you can break things down by things like product groups or regions, just depending what dimensions you've got set up. So this is quite powerful, as it means you can put in lots of different options here to break the data down by, and it gives your users flexibility to go in and slice the data how they want to. So it saves you having to build lots of different reports. You can also combine this with other slices, so you could have a date filter at the top where people can pick a date range they want to see the data by, and use that in conjunction with this to give them a sort of combined filtered down data set. Now when you finish building your report, the first thing you need to do is save it, and I'd recommend doing that quite often. So if we now just call this one test report, click save, it already exists but we'll just overwrite that one. So now we've saved it, this name here is what your report will appear as when you publish it to the Power BI website to share it with other users. So if I now click publish, first thing it'll do is ask us for a destination. So these are what it calls workspaces. So workspace in Power BI is essentially a grouping of reports, a bit like a folder. So you might want to create one for different teams within your business. So I'm going to publish this to this BC demo reports one. Click select. So this will now go up to the Power BI website. So it'll take a second or two. And if I flick over to the website, and if I just click out of here and go to the Power BI home section, now on the bottom left here you have your workspaces. So I just expand this menu, you can see here it says workspace. So if I now go to the demo reports one, that's where we just published to, and you can see there's our test reports. That's now available on the Power BI website. So first thing you typically want to do is set up a refresh for the report. So each report will have the report itself with this blue icon and the data set behind it with this orange icon, and it's on the data set here you schedule refreshes. So you can just click refresh here to do a manual refresh, and that will just refresh it instantly, and you can do that as often as you want. But if we come in here and click on the schedule refresh button, this gives us the settings for this data set. So typically the first thing you'll want to do is enter some credentials. So this is how the report connects to Business Central. Now, because we've already got reports using this connection, it's already got those. But if it's your first time publishing, you just need to click that edit credentials button and add a login. The next step is to click on schedule refresh, turn it on, and add some times you wanted to refresh. So you can do it up to 8 a day with a standard Power BI Pro license. So it's just a case of saying add time, and let's say we want to do 8 AM, maybe 12 PM. So say you can add up to 8 times in, and that's 8 per report per day. Now by default, if there's an issue connecting, so for example if your password for Business Central is expired or something like that, it will email the dataset owner. You can optionally also have it email other people if there's a problem. So if we click apply, that now if I go back to the workspace, you can see its next refresh is scheduled for 12 PM. And as I say, you can just click this to trigger, so you can do as many manual refreshes as you want, but by default with a Pro license, 8 scheduled ones per day. Now if I click onto the report itself, you can see we can view it just like it was in Power BI Desktop. So we've got the 2 pages here, and it's good to go. So the next step you probably want to do is share the report. So typically you'd share it by giving people access to the workspace. So when you're inside the workspace here, you can click access and just add people in. So you can add them as a member, a viewer, or an admin. So viewers are essentially what you'll set most people as, and that gives them access to look at the reports in here. Admin gives them full control. They can add users, remove users, delete reports, and then member contribute essentially let them build reports and add them in here themselves as well. So in terms of adding them, it's just a case of typing in the person's name and then just picking them from the list, select the role you want and click add. And likewise, you can remove people as well by clicking on the dots and clicking remove here, or change the role if you want to. So once they've been given access, they'll be able to log in, they'll see the workspace here and have access to the reports. So lastly, I'm just going to quickly show you a couple of pre-built demo reports that we have, just to give you an idea of some of the other visuals you can use. So here's a scorecard report, which can be filtered by executive and shows revenue by region and executive and location. So you can see here, if I click on one of these regions, it will filter this map down. So this is based on the customer's addresses. You can see here, it shows you the amount of revenue in each area for that region. And likewise, I can go over here and click on an executive, and it will filter it down as well to that person. So, like I say, everything's interactive. It's a really great way to share and publish reports. So I hope this session has been useful. So that's the end of the sort of live demo part of this. So we're going to go on now to just talk about things like pricing, etc.
So yeah, the next big thing we get asked about a lot is the differences between Power BI licenses. So in order to start using Power BI, you do need a license, but there is a free one available. So if you want to just get started and have a sort of bit of a play with it and have a go at building some reports, that's a great way to get started, but it is quite restrictive. So a free license will let you build a report in Power BI Desktop and publish it up to the Power BI website. However, you can't share that report, so you can't give other people access to it. It's just for you to use yourself. So any number of people could have free licenses and build their own reports, but it'd be just for personal use essentially. So the most common license is the Power BI Pro one. So this is about £7.50 per user per month. And whether you want to build reports or view them, it's the same license really. And essentially, once you've got that license, you can build your reports and then share them with other people in the business that also have a Power BI Pro license. It allows you to do up to 8 refreshes a day per report, and each report's sort of data model can be up to 1 gigabyte. It also allows you to do things like export the reports to PDF, so you can email them, PowerPoint, etc. Now, there is a slightly more premium version, which is about double the price, and again, that's per user per month. Any reports created with this Power BI Premium per user license can only be shared with other users that have that same license. So if they've only got a Pro license, they won't be able to see reports created in here. This does give you up to 48 refreshes a day. So if you need more real-time data and 8 refreshes isn't enough, you can use that. And it also supports more advanced visuals with some AI bits to help analyze your data. And each data model could be up to 100 gig on that license. So if you have got a large data set, that can be quite useful. And then finally, there's Power BI Premium, which is a much more expensive offering. It's around nearly £4,000 a month, so £3,766. This is more for much larger enterprise businesses. And the advantage of this is people viewing reports don't need a license. You only need to buy Pro licenses for people designing the reports. But obviously, to hit the point where it becomes cost effective, you need to have a lot of users really for that. It does also give you much larger data model sizes and also the AI visuals, and you can also set up servers to do on-premise reporting. So it is geared up for much larger enterprises really. And then last of all really is if you need some help with Power BI or Power Platform in general, we have a couple of offerings on our website. So we do have some report packs specifically for Business Central you can get to here. And we also have a time saver pack, which is where we'll sort of work with you to see if we can help build any sort of Power Apps, Power BI reports, or automate some processes to help streamline your business processes and hopefully save you time. So that's the end of the presentation really. So if there's any questions.
Thanks for that, Steve. I think the only question that we've had has been around licensing, and I believe that everything has kind of been covered in regards to that. I don't know if anyone has any further questions. Maybe too quick to ask. Yeah, if anyone has any further questions, obviously just let us know in the chat. As part of our Valentine's Day deals, we do currently have 20% off our medium time saver pack. So I've just popped that in the chat as well, which is running till the end of February. I am just going to share my screen so I've got these details. So firstly, I'd like to say thank you, Steve, so much for presenting. Steve has had COVID this week, but has still powered on and presented for us. So very grateful for you doing that for us today. And thank you for everyone who's attended. I think this has been the busiest webinar that we've had so far, so it's great to have all of you with us. I just want to put out a reminder that the session is recorded and will be available on the website afterwards. We can also get the slide deck sent across for people who would like access to those links as well, as I've just seen that question pop into the chat. So We will be in contact with everyone who has attended for any feedback on the session and to just get a general gist of how you felt about it. If you have enjoyed it, please feel free to get in touch with your account manager here at Bamboom Cloud if you are an existing customer, and we'll be happy to follow up on this. And for any new clients, we do have the contact email on page as well now. So if you are a new client and want to get in touch, please let us know. My name's Renee, again, if you need anyone to refer to. Next week, we will be presenting Warehouse Insights at 2 p.m. again, so our Wednesday webinars on at 2 p.m. and I hope to see you there. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks everyone again for attending.
Thanks everyone.